Here's our pal Tom Caron. He had a good weekend. He was obviously up in Cooperstown with Ortiz, with Nesson, and then, of course, Tom is getting ready for the Red Sox and the Guardians, a 4-game series. Lots to talk about with the Red Sox plus Ortiz. Tom, it's a pleasure. Great to have you with us here. He was joyful all weekend. He set a good tone. He put a good stamp on it, too, with his speech yesterday. He's a bubbly personality. Obviously, lots to be bubbly about. You had a little access to him. What's the, give me the takeaway from you working with Ortiz the last couple of days up there in upstate New York? Let me hear.
Well, you know, Mad Dog, David Ortiz is a headliner, right? Even surrounded by the greatest players in the history of baseball, he's a headliner. And nobody is more comfortable. I've always said, and I covered his entire career, he could be in a boardroom with CEOs and executives and make them all feel personally connected. And then he can walk down the hall and go to a preschool and make every one of those kids feel personally connected. That's what Big Papi does. That's why he's more than a really important player in Red Sox history. He's an icon in Boston, cultural, social, baseball icon, checks off all those boxes. And this weekend, he just rolled into Cooperstown like he owned the place. It was interesting that he told us yesterday after his speech that when he was rehearsing the speech in the days leading up to it, he found himself crying. And so he just kept repeating the speech until he felt he had cried it out. I thought he nailed it. He went 19 minutes. I think he thanked 49 people by name. So he crammed in all the the scouts and the coaches and the managers, the teammates, and the fans. 35,000 fans, the estimated crowd at Cooperstown yesterday, most of them there for Big Papi.
Yeah, 19 minutes is not terrible. He thanked Dave Joust, amongst others. Yeah, I thought he hit the right notes. I'm with you 100%. He went last, which I thought starting with Cott and ending with him was smart from Cooperstown perspective. And I agree, he was the headliner. Great for him. All right, better there than watching the Red Sox get mauled by Toronto. I tell you that. 28 runs on Friday, and a bad sign because usually when you lose a game like that, you come back to win the next two. And the Red Sox did not. They got murdered on Saturday and Sunday. They're 500. They're pathetic against the American League East. Everybody's going to shovel dirt on them right now, and rightfully so. Watch them bounce back. But who knows what the future is going to be in the next week for the Red Sox with the GM Bloom and what he might come up with. What's your take on that? Let me hear.
Well, I mean, it's easy, Mad Dog, it's easy to say, let's sell everything, right? If you're Chaim Bloom, it's easy to look at plays like that and say, where is this team going? What are they doing? Why are we going to add anything? But honestly, even that won't be easy because J.D. Martinez, who's a guy you might consider because he's a pending free agent, he's day-to-day with back spasms. Kike Hernandez is on the 60-day DL now. So even some of the guys you might consider moving aren't available. Evaldi's back from the injured list, but his velocity's down a couple of ticks, so he's not looking 100% back. So it's not even that easy to just say, let's sell. Christian Vasquez would have a lot of value right now, one of the better hitting catchers in the game. And then there's the Xander Bogaerts discussion. He's a free agent. We know they haven't had any conversations. And if you're Chaim Bloom, like Mookie Betts, and you think you won't be able to keep him for the value you put on him, would you consider trading him? And I think that would be really unpopular here in Boston, and he would be sort of taking it to the next level as far as how fans look at this team. So I would have a hard time seeing them trading Bogaerts. But, man, after watching this past weekend and watching what they did against the Yankees, they've lost 5 in a row now. They've given up 90-something runs in the last 10 games, over 9 runs a game on average. They're still only 3 games back in the wild card hunt, but it's really hard right now with the injuries they have. Brian Bayo is their top pitching prospect. They've lost all 3 games he's started. He was out there yesterday, 5 runs in the first inning. Right now, they're trying to patch it together. Trade deadline's a week away, and it doesn't get easier. You said the Guardians, first place Milwaukee at Fenway this weekend, then 4 at Houston to take them through the trade deadline. The gauntlet isn't over yet.
Wow. How about Duran, the center fielder, who basically, I don't know what he was thinking about. Young player doing that on an inside the park grand slam. Verdugo had to go over there and slide to get the ball. I know you weren't at the game. We'll get a little feel about how Cora handles it. I don't know what he did over the weekend. That was a very bad look on Friday night. Let me get your take there.
Well, I mean, he's had trouble with reads to begin with, and it was a tough twilight. Talking to some people there, it was a tough sky to read, fine. But when it falls in behind you, you got to turn and hustle and get after that ball. And he didn't. He just stopped, kind of dropped his head. He said after the game that he saw Verdugo was over there, Verdugo didn't get there that quickly. So I'm not sure he helped himself with the comments after the game. They kind of turned it on the reporters. They'd like to see you catch one in the twilights. That's not how you want to handle that. And I think he'll learn and mature and be better in those situations. But you got to try to get out there and at least get that last runner to stop. A grand slam. You got 4 guys circling the bases, and you got to get back to that ball and try to keep Tapia from coming in all around. You see he loses it, but then he just stops. He doesn't make an effort to get back there, and he waits for Verdugo to go get it. It's a bad look in the field, and I don't think he really helped himself with the comments after, because you know this town. You just got to come out and throw yourself on the sword and say, I blew it, I got to be better, I got to hustle, and then you move on. That's not what he said, so he didn't help himself out.
100%. I didn't know that. I mean, I did hear what he said about Verdugo, who you're right. He was 20 miles away from getting that ball. That was and then he's getting on the reporters. Like to see you catch the ball. We're not getting paid to catch the ball. I like to see you right on deadline. I mean, come on. That's not the right response. All right. The Red Sox, everybody's going to gang up on them in that town right now. Everybody, as I said before, is going to, shovel dirt on them. How they respond. Sometimes teams gather and, they reinforce themselves and they dig deep and they we'll show you attitude goes a long way. How do you think this mindset will affect the Red Sox? Everybody's thinking that they're finished. How will they respond? What do you think?
It wasn't lost on a lot of people out in Cooperstown yesterday that David Ortiz was being inducted on the anniversary of the Veritek mitt to the face of A-Rod. Okay, and that was the turning point of that 2004 season. We all remember that on July 24th, 2004. Kind of what really galvanized the team to get up off the floor. They were struggling, a 500 team. This team still has the talent to do that with the expanded playoffs. They're not that far out. It's all about the pitching. They've got Pivetta back. He was really good for about 2 months. Looked a little gassed before the All-Star break. Hopefully they gave him a little extra rest here. If he's good tonight, he could set the tone in this 4-game series against the Guardians. Michael Wacha was really good. He's on the injured list, but he's getting closer. Rich Hill threw a bullpen over the weekend. So if you get the pitching back, then I think you can stabilize things a little bit. If you can take care of this, if you can take 3 or 4 against the Guardians, survive the Brewers over the weekend, then I think you're sort of stabilizing and staying alive in this wild card race. A lot of teams that are not very good out there in baseball that the Red Sox have really succeeded against. They've got an easier schedule coming up, but they got to get to that easier schedule without falling too far off the pace. This Guardians series, Mad Dog, it's huge. You got to at least split the 4 games, if not take 3.
At least. Tom, great job. We keep in touch. Thanks for joining us as usual today. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Always a pleasure.
You got it. Tom Caron, who had a busy weekend with Ortiz.